sorry for guys packed into gyms, trying to look like how Calvin Klein or Tommy Hilfiger said they should. That what a man looks like?
Self-improvement is masturbation.
Films and TV shows such as The Matrix, Fight Club, American Psycho, and The Sopranos are all critically acclaimed in American pop culture, but despite the age of all these pieces of media, a younger demographic have found comfort in them. Groups of young men that call themselves Sigma males. A Sigma male is often characterized as a man who chooses to live life on his own terms, valuing his independence, self-sufficiency, and personal growth. They also prefer solitary activities where they don't have to play social politics and can simply focus on their own interests. Essentially, it's astrology for introverted guys who feel that they don't fit into society. Originally starting off as satire/memes, it's quickly devolved into a descriptor for those with conservative views. Sigma memes went from consisting of tongue-in-cheek jokes about being socially awkward to using various fictional characters as mouthpieces for edgy and derogatory jokes, typically directed towards women and the LGBT. But what really made the Sigma male meme culture go through a renaissance was American Psycho. American Psycho was a novel written by Bret Easton Ellis, who, unbeknownst to Sigma males, is not straight. However, for accuracy to the memes, we will be talking about the film adaptation of American Psycho, directed by Mary Harron. Starring Christian Bale, the movie follows the chilling journey of the charismatic, materialistic psychopath Patrick Bateman, who indulges in gruesome murders against homeless people, women, and other people he is either jealous of or looks down upon. American Psycho is widely seen as a critique of the lives of young men who worked in corporate positions as nameless wealth-creating drones, along with showing how much these young men can get away with. Patrick Bateman is portrayed as a sick, pathetic psychopath who wants to fit in with his corporate clones and suffers from constantly feeling inadequate and forgotten. With this in mind, how did this movie appeal to the outspoken edgelord demographic of social media? Although Patrick Bateman is constantly ostracized and shown to be mentally unstable, these young men find comfort in his struggle to contain his true thoughts and inner rage. Patrick Bateman acts as almost the perfect mouthpiece for the thoughts they can't say out loud. Although Bateman draws the line at anti-Semitism, his victims within the film consist of a black homeless man, various sex workers, and even a dog. Most of the Sigma content that comes from American Psycho often relies on the punchline being hate directed towards certain demographics or even at themselves. However, within the movie, most of Bateman's problems come from his feelings of inadequacy due to his pursuit of money and influence. He takes his rage out on demographics he sees as lesser than him in brutal ways, while keeping his charismatic mask on around his co-workers. However, an overlooked component of American Psycho is the fact that Bateman actually spares the victims who take interest in him as a person. In one of the most pivotal scenes of the movie, Patrick Bateman invites his secretary Evelyn over to his apartment with the intent to kill her. During their back and forth conversation, she asks about Bateman's life and if he's ever wanted to make someone happy. While he holds a nail gun aimed to the back of her head, he responds, "I just want a meaningful relationship with someone special." His finger fidgets on the trigger as he hesitates before he is called by his fiancée. One could say that whether or not Bateman would have pulled the trigger is debatable, but I disagree. In an earlier scene, Bateman attempts to choke his male co-worker to death in a bathroom for having a better business card than him, but his co-worker takes it as an advance and professes his love to Bateman, which leads to Patrick quickly washing his hands and fleeing. Perhaps this point applies to Sigma males who feel alienated from society and don't want to indulge in other people because they feel unlovable. Many Sigma males feel exactly like Patrick Bateman. They are angry at the world, forced into jobs they hate, and feel alienated and forgotten by society. The author himself has even stated that the novel is really about his loneliness and alienation, and as a critique of how consumerist success, such as money, trophy wives, etc., leads to competition and conformity. However, instead of seeing how Bateman's lifestyle under hyper-capitalism and conformity leads to him decaying internally and lashing out, they wrap themselves in layers of irony and satire and use him as a role model to emulate. The true message of American Psycho serves as a cautionary tale of what happens when men pursue greed and social conformity instead of focusing on the factors that cause them to lash out on people they see as lesser. And while we're on the topic of hierarchies, we are brought to a franchise that has been turned into the political ideology of a new school of thought, The Matrix. The Matrix was a sci-fi film released in 1999 to critical acclaim and incorporated complex themes and philosophical questions through the medium of the action film genre. Its most famous scene of Neo taking the red pill over the blue pill to wake up to reality has become the metaphor for many right-wingers and manosphere gurus across the internet, including the infamous Andrew Tate. The metaphor of the Matrix within the film itself has also been used by people to fit their narratives, whether it be totalitarian governments, public distractions, or the woke brainwashing of the masses. But much like Morpheus, what if I told you the truth about the Matrix? The Matrix serves as a metaphor for the capitalist system gone out of control that dominates our societies. At the beginning of the film, Neo is shown to live a boring life, working in rows of cubicles at a company ran by his uptight boss. Once he starts to doubt the Matrix, he begins to be stalked and chased by men in black suits, which we can assume is a metaphor for our governmental agencies. Furthermore, when Neo finally takes the red pill and wakes up, he finds that he lives in a dystopian world where machines have enslaved humanity, harvesting their life energy while simultaneously providing an illusion of a comfortable, simulated reality. Despite going into the real world, both realities reflect the same system, a system where corporations and powerful entities overwork and control the labor value of the working class for their personal benefits. The people who have escaped the Matrix also unplug from all the consumerism and flashy luxuries of the Matrix to live in reality, which directly clashes with the ideologies people like Andrew Tate spit out. If the system is designed to exploit you and make you work as much as possible to get as much money as possible, how would more consumerism and labor help you escape? Another component of the Matrix themes are the details of the trans experience. While the Wachowskis, the creators of the series, have come out as transgender after the Matrix release, it is still full of metaphors and themes of gender identity. Neo's transformation from Thomas Anderson into the One can be interpreted as a reflection of the trans experience in itself, especially since Neo had to take a pill in order to make this transformation, and estrogen pills were allegedly read around the time of the movie's release. In addition, Neo is chased after by an Agent Smith who uses clones of himself and repeatedly calls Neo by his Matrix name, Mr. Anderson. The character Switch also subtly highlights transgender themes. Switch is a member of the Resistance crew who is portrayed as androgynous in the real world, but presents as a female within the Matrix. The original script by the Wachowskis had Switch have different genders between their real world self and their Matrix appearance, but Warner Brothers scrapped that idea. The representation of Switch underscores the complexities faced by transgender individuals who may not always feel safe or accepted. A main message of the Matrix is the difference between the real world and what we portray ourselves as in the so-called Matrix or fake world, whether it be Neo's new identity as the One and not wanting to be Mr. Anderson, or even a direct metaphor such as Switch's gender identity in the real world and the Matrix. It seems like the Matrix has a lot of overtones and undertones of what the transgender experience is like. Nowadays, however, any mention of the red pill or Matrix immediately sets off alarms in people's heads of right-wing conspiracy theories and sleazy male improvement gurus. The anti-capitalist messaging of the film and its commentary on gender and identity have been drowned out by the human desire for hidden knowledge and conspiracy. A message about waking up to our exploitation and your true self has been twisted to suit whatever narrative its user wants to spread. But in contrast, there exists a film that has been embraced for its views on gender identity and our pop culture. Chuck Palahniuk's iconic novel Fight Club and its subsequent film adaptation directed by David Fincher have made a major mark on pop culture. Beyond its gritty narrative and raw aesthetics, the story serves as a powerful critique of toxic masculinity and consumerism. Throughout its plot, Palahniuk dissects the destructive consequences of adhering to societal expectations of masculinity and the hollow pursuit of material possessions. At the core of Fight Club lies the protagonist known only as the narrator. Struggling with insomnia and a mundane corporate existence, he represents the typical modern man, burdened by societal norms and expectations. Trapped in a consumer-driven world that bombards him with advertisements, he is haunted by the illusion that material possessions will bring him happiness and self-worth. He even outlines the prices and various furniture items that he has bought for his apartment, despite it being empty and him being the only one that lives here. In this context, consumerism acts as a symbol of a society that emphasizes superficiality and materialism over genuine human connections. To escape the monotony of his life, the narrator creates an alter ego, Tyler Durden, a charismatic and anarchic figure who challenges the conventions of masculinity. Tyler embodies traits that society often frowns upon: aggression, rebellion, and non-conformity. The emergence of this split personality symbolizes the internal conflict that many men face between their societal roles and their suppressed desires to be free from the chains of conformity. However, Tyler is also the narrator's idea of an ideal man, in shape, charismatic, able to lead, and so on. This side of Tyler Durden also appeals to Sigma males and right-wingers as the perfect idol to emulate. The underground fight club, which the narrator and Tyler create, serves as a manifestation of the suppressed male aggression and the yearning to reclaim a sense of power and control. Through these brutal fights, the men seek an outlet to express their masculinity in a world that discourages emotional vulnerability and encourages detachment from one's true self. In an interview with Huffington Post, Chuck states that the masculine violence of the film isn't necessarily a vehicle to critique violence and describes it as kind of a mutually agreed upon therapy. I agree with this take, but I also believe that Fight Club inadvertently shows that violence is the language of a man's frustration with himself, society, or others when he cannot express himself in socially acceptable ways or in healthy ways that they still consider masculine. The Fight Club becomes a space where men are finally stripped to their societal mask and are allowed to confront their rawest emotions. As Fight Club evolves into Project Mayhem, the once noble intentions of liberating men from their internal struggles spiral into anarchy and violence. This transformation exposes the darker consequences of unbridled masculinity. Purposefully or not, Polinick portrays how unchecked aggression and a desire for power can lead to chaos and destruction, ultimately undermining the well-beings of individuals and society. At its very core, Fight Club is anarchist. It criticizes the shallow and materialistic nature of modern society, urging individuals to break free from the constraints of consumer culture and to find genuine meaning and identity. Tyler Durden even calls out the human need for validation and hierarchies with quotes such as, "You're not your job, you're not how much money you have in the bank, you're not the car you drive, you're not the contents of your wallet." Yet ironically, all these messages have been forgotten in the buzz of violence and masculinity on display. Tyler Durden is exposed to be a person who doesn't care for anything except getting back at society by creating a terroristic cult. Sigma males idolize Tyler Durden without realizing the hypocrisy of the narrator. The narrator calls out how society pushes men to work out to obtain the perfect body for aesthetic purposes, yet his ideal man is one with a six-pack and fighting skill. Through Tyler Durden, the narrator says that self-improvement is masturbation, which is a concept that I agree to with an extent. With my previous videos, I called out that a lot of self-improvement isn't for themselves, but rather to impress other people and kind of get a feeling of getting back at society or people who have done you wrong. This is exactly the message that Fight Club criticizes, yet a lot of the people who embrace Fight Club as a pro-masculinity, no criticisms kind of piece of media don't understand that. However, there exists a film that is understood and praised by the Sigma male crowd. It's no secret to my followers and subscribers that Blade Runner 2049 is my favorite film of all time. It blends mystery, cyberpunk aesthetics, and cinematography into one amazing film. However, this video isn't a movie review. The major draw of 2049 to Sigma males is the character of Officer K, played by Ryan Gosling. Ryan Gosling has become a meme amongst young men for playing socially awkward silent characters who normally go through some sort of trauma. Many of the lighthearted Sigma memes involve Ryan Gosling, including the famous scene of him looking dejected while a giant naked purple hologram tries to seduce him. Despite the negative connotations that I've given to Sigmas, I will say that Blade Runner 2049 is the truest Sigma film, and that's exactly why it hasn't been talked about as much as the other three films I've mentioned. In the film, Officer K initially believes that he is the first robotic replicant born from a human father and a replicant mother, and attempts to find out the truth. He eventually discovers that he is just a simple replicant and that his entire purpose was to essentially be a decoy along with another group of replicants. As the story unfolds, Officer K's journey of self-discovery leads him to embrace his humanity and realize that his actions, though seemingly insignificant in the grand scheme of things, have a profound impact on others, such as when he sacrifices himself at the end of the movie. This revelation challenges the notion that altruism and being cared about are reserved only for the main characters of the world. It emphasizes that ordinary individuals, through their compassion, choices, and selflessness, can become catalysts for change and having a positive influence on the world around them, even if they aren't the protagonists of the narrative. Although Officer K is shown to be an antisocial, lonely man who does whatever he is told and has a virtual girlfriend, much like many of you, Blade Runner 2049's plot twist delivers a powerful message that one can do good and influence the world without being the traditional main character. And this is exactly why the film isn't talked about amongst the more edgy Sigma males. It's a painful look into the reality that isn't shielded by satire, flashy violence, or commentaries on society using secret societies and plots. Officer K is an average Joe who has no incentive to keep going once he learns the truth, but he realizes that there are other people in the world who need help just like him. This is truly the definition of a Sigma male, a man who is independent and does things on his own terms regardless of what society, media, or his hedonistic desires tell him to do. Films serve as mirrors to our own lives, prompting us to reflect on our actions, beliefs, and values. So let's continue to embrace the magic of cinema, seeking out films that push us to grow, to question, and to evolve into the best versions of ourselves. Keep in mind that in movies, characters aren't always what we see, that sometimes they are used as vehicles to show us what not to do or what not to say or how not to act. You should see films as more of a toolbox and not of a guideline on how to live your life. So the next time you're watching a film, take a second to yourself, read between the lines, and think about what the movie is trying to portray.